Hey, chickadees. We're going to pull another card today from, again, the Oracle of the Seven Energies. Our guides are just pretty much saying, hang out with this deck. So here we go. Just going to ask today another general question, just like, what do we need to know today that's for our highest and best good, both for myself and for all of you out there, the entire Mojo Mysticism community. So what do we need? Wow, that was quick. Hang on, they're talking to me. Okay, we're going to do 3 cards. So one of them's already popped out, and the second one already popped out. So, and let's just see where the third one is. So what do we need to know today? 3 cards. What do we need to know? Nope, there's the third one. All right, so we got our cards already. So they are not messing around today. So, which is good. It's kind of felt that way. They've been very, very down to business today. So I was asking one of my guides, who's also one of our guides, names today, and they were not kidding around. They were like, it's this. Okay, there we go. So let's see what we got today. Oh my gosh. All right, so we have this is a great little spread. So we have Ears Wide Open. This is the first card. So Ears Wide Open, this is about making sure we are listening to the spirit world, that we are very in tune with what's happening around us. And especially as we're moving into wrapping up the end of the year here in the next couple of weeks, really making sure that we are really listening for the guidance that we're receiving at all levels. And I love the fox here. The fox is kind of laying in a little bit of maybe a thicket. I don't know what that's called. I don't know if it's a thicket or not, but he's got himself a little spot where he is just laying and listening. But if you look at his ears, they're turned up, right? So they're up and back. So he's listening for the guides, for his guides. So definitely listening to the stars is what it looks like to me. So yeah. So this is about he's got a very intent little gaze on him too. So it's a deep listening that he's involved in, and you can tell he's very intentional about it by the way that he's gazing. So this is really also about like how we give this gift of listening to others and showing some real focused attention. So this is a great reminder as we go into the holidays that we keep our ears wide open, really make sure that we are listening to other people, to those around us, our family and friends as we gather around with them. And tuning in and letting go of our own need to be heard. So listening first, seeking to understand the other person first, and then seeking to be understood. So that's a very interesting card for today. And next we see a card that we see here actually quite a lot out of this deck in Mojo Mysticism. So I maybe they're trying to tell us that maybe someday we ought to actually believe this. I don't know. But we see this a lot. This is number 48, Burst of Magic. So, and this card is, it's got the lotus on it. It's got the feminine form on it. It's about basically having that higher knowing epiphany coming in. It's about downloads, right? That burst of magic, and magic's happening everywhere. We talked about this yesterday with the Oracle's gift card that we talked about yesterday. These gifts from Spirit are everywhere around us. And they give us the purpose in this life. So I remember before I started understanding what was really going on around me, that it seemed like I really needed purpose that was outside of myself, right? I needed something outside of myself to help me feel like I was grounded, like I had a reason to be here. So it was doing something, okay? And then, now it's not to say that we don't have purpose in our life and we're not like doing things, right? And that there's not purpose that can manifest itself outside of us, but purpose always comes from the inside. And that's what I didn't know when I was younger, before all this gray hair started. I didn't realize that my purpose always came from the inside. And yet I somehow inherently knew that. It was my intuition speaking to me. Yeah, it was the deep knowing of many millions of past and parallel lifetimes that was telling me there's something more here, Molly. Keep digging, keep digging, keep digging. So, yeah, the burst of magic, like find that magic in your life, hang your purpose on it, but it's on the inside, right? Don't look for magic. You're going to see lots of magic outside of you, but when you start looking at that higher knowing and that purpose, it is always going to be within you. Okay, so go within, be still within action, right? Be still within action, know who you are. And if you're like me, it's get to know who you are. I always thought I knew who I was, and boy, was I kidding myself. So I was really being who I thought I needed to be to survive. I did that. A lot of us do it just to grow up. And yeah, and then we get the opportunity to let that go and we get a little older. So this card, this burst of magic, I just love this thing so much. So, but it's really kind of tuning into our higher power, seeing that magic everywhere, and coming really to kind of know what lights us up, because we know who we are and we know what our purpose is. So there is no question in my mind what my purpose is now. There's a lot of questions in my mind about how that shows up in the world and how it's manifested in the world. In fact, there's probably more questions than answers on that part still, but there's no question that I know my purpose. And yeah, and my purpose is to be love. That's why I'm here. I'm sassy, but at the end of the day, maybe I'm sassy love, but at the end of the day, that's my calling, is to be love, not just learn unconditional love. Not just that. And I've had extraordinary experiences with unconditional love, but to become love itself and express that in the world. So I would argue that's probably most of our mission, but that's what I got going on. So it's a good reminder for the holiday season that that's kind of what we're all about. We're beings that are built on love, and that's what we love. That's what we love. That's who we are. All right, so the third card that they had us pull, that our guides had us pull, is card number 13. This is Feeling the World. Feeling the World. Now I've pulled this card before. I don't know if I've pulled it on the channel before. I'd have to go back and look. This is a really interesting card. To me, it means a couple of different things for me personally. And I'll tell you what those are. But first, I want to tell you kind of generally what our guides are telling us for how this card really resonates with all of us. And it's about kind of our sensitivity in the world, and our sensitivity to the feelings of others, our awareness of the feelings of others, and our awareness that the whole world, those feelings can overwhelm us, especially if you're sensitive and an empath like I am. I was recently, I'll try to tell you just 2 stories so that we don't go on for 3 hours today. The first story is that I was down on the Gulf a few weeks ago, and I was doing some work down there. And I love to stay on the Gulf. I enjoy it very much, and I always have a great time when I'm there. But I didn't really understand why there was like this fun environment, but it also had this kind of, I'm gonna call it a blanket of sadness for me. And I always thought it was just me until this last trip. And I realized, oh, it's not just me. I'm taking on the feelings of the land. And when I realized that, I realized just how sensitive I really am. And so, I did some clearing techniques, because, us empaths, we really just can't be carrying around all these feelings. We got enough of our own. We don't need the other ones. So we want to let those go. So I was able to kind of shed those feelings and really begin to discern which feelings am I having that are actually mine. And that became a very big question I'm not sure I know the answer to just yet. Because the second story that I want to share with you happened this past Sunday. So we got to back up a day before that, though, to start the story. So on Saturday, my wife Tina and I went to a brunch, and it was a pretty full restaurant. And so we're there eating with some friends. And that afternoon, I noticed that I had almost like a really significant amount of sadness that came over me. And I realized, especially after the golf issue a couple weeks ago, I thought, I'm not sure this is mine. So I was starting to really think about, who was I with? What was going on in the restaurant? Who were the other people that were there? Is there any sadness that I could have picked up there? Because the only place I was at was the restaurant and then at home with Tina. So I really didn't know the answer to that, and because Tina seemed fine, and I knew I wasn't sad, like not at that level for sure. So I picked it up somewhere. So the next morning, Tina and I go back out to breakfast. I think we eat out a lot, but we went out to breakfast and we're sitting there just having a nice chat. And I said, honey, I've had this really, really weird, like, blanket of sadness that's come over me, and I can't figure out where it's coming from, because I've only been to the other restaurant and then it started about an hour after leaving there, and then I've been with you the whole time. And she looked up at me and she said, it's mine. It's my sadness. I thought, oh my goodness, I am much more sensitive than I thought. And obviously, immediately began to dive into that with her. And I said, but you tell me when I ask you how you're doing, you tell me you're fine. And I just feel like I have to take that on face value. But the truth is that I may be picking up on things that are under the surface, which clearly was what was happening this past weekend. And then she asked me a very interesting question as we were just exploring this whole thing together. She says, so when I sense that something's going on with you and I ask you how you're doing and you tell me you're fine, does that mean that whatever emotion might be going on with you, it's not yours? And I said, quite likely. So that is quite likely the case. And I am going to continue to explore this because it's very, very intriguing to me. So but yeah, especially those of us who are empathic and sensitive and clairsentient, things can get kind of a little bit murky from time to time for me, as I'm learning to really discern these things out and understand, like, what's mine, what's not mine, what's happening in the spirit world, how's it impacting my three-dimensional world, which happens a lot, and really kind of developing the clairs that I have that are not quite as strong as some of the other clairs that are strong, which we talked about that yesterday. But yeah, it's really, really intriguing. So I love these cards, like listen, right? The ears wide open, listen, and seek to understand first before being understood. And then burst of magic, which is just seeing what's going on around us and understanding that magic's everywhere, and we just get to deal with the inside so that we can see it on the outside. And then this whole idea of feeling the world and understanding what is ours and what is not ours when it comes to all of the feelings going on. There's so many, especially right now with some of the really horrific things that are going on around the world. We can pick up a whole lot of energy that's not ours. And what happens when we do that is we get into basically overload and overwhelm. And this actually, God, like, this is like confessional time. I hadn't really thought too much about this. But just thinking, I don't know, over the past, I'm just going to say 50 years, just the empathy overload and the just the overwhelm that I felt on a regular occasion, I'm going to say, is all becoming clearer literally as I'm speaking these words. It's almost a little overwhelming. So, but anyway, yeah, so this is really interesting. So you know what, if you're, pay attention. So that's what's happening here in these cards. It's listen and pay attention. Burst of magic. Look at what's going on around you. Enjoy the magic. Understand, the magic that's happening around you. And then understand when you're taking on a little bit too much of the feelings in the world by listening and by monitoring your feelings and knowing how you feel and what's yours and what isn't yours. And yeah, if you're feeling a little bit off when you're with someone, this will happen to me an awful lot. This happened to me, this happens to me more often than I care to admit. And the thing is that I'm not very good about taking myself out of these situations yet. I am getting much, much more discerning. When you feel a little off and you're with somebody, that person could be draining your energy. That's quite possible. So find a way when you're, done interacting with them to just go clear your energy and restore yourself. Do some restorative practices, excuse me, so that you can rebalance your energy and really come back to what your feelings really are and not the feelings of the world. So, all right, chickadees, I thought this was going to be a short video today, but our guides had a lot more for us than I thought they would. So I hope you have a fabulous day. Please hit subscribe and like this video if you want to see more of these in your feed. And we will see you next time on Mojo Mysticism. Mwah.